to the specifics of the first key economic space or grouping of spaces that we looked at. So when we looked at these, we started with the job clusters that were prepared by the Planning Commission, which actually came out of census data and that kind of thing. So that's what we started, and that's kind of the little dots there. And then we grouped them into key economic spaces, which we presented to you before, and I believe the map here in front of the podium shows where the key economic spaces are around the county. From the key economic spaces, we decided that it would be important to look at what the network needs are within these spaces, or the transportation facilities needed within these key economic spaces. And along with that, you need to look at land use, because the land use can dictate to you what sort of improvements are needed. In other words, different land uses may drive you to different types of improvements. So that's kind of where we started. As we analyze these further, beyond the transportation needs in each of these key economic spaces, the spaces also have to have connectivity, meaning you can't isolate these and just say, okay, here you go. All you need to do is some work in this key economic space and that'll solve all the problems. They have to be connected and they have to work together. So the overall goal then would be to provide a system that's reliable, provides intermodal connectivity, and provides market access. So to work towards that, we came up with this concept of a spine system in the main roads and infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, and a spine network that I'll speak to now. So what we define as the spine is, we equated that to the FDOT's Strategic Intermodal System, or the SIS. Back probably 10 years ago or so, the Florida DOT decided that they needed to be strategic about their investments as well, and investments in infrastructure. So they came up with a plan to define hubs, what they call hubs and spokes. Hubs being the key economic drivers in areas where things come into and perhaps leave different areas of the state. And the spokes are the facilities, whether it's roads or rail or what have you, that connected these, i.e. that moved goods and people. So some examples in this county of hubs are Tampa International Airport, the Port of Tampa, etc. And then, of course, some of the spokes are the interstate system. There are some rail lines that connect, for example, the port to other parts of the state. And some of the major roads, like State Road 60 east of I-75. And there's others too. So that's kind of how we define the spine system. The spine network then is the system of roads that could be DOT roads, it could be county, city streets, what have you, but it's those primary roads that support the spine or the main network of the system. So we call that the spine network. And you'll hear me refer to it as the network as we go through this presentation. So just to kind of show you sort of what the spine net looks like in this county, the spine includes, again, you can see the interstate system here, you can see the Veterans Expressway, the Solomon Expressway, again, some of the hubs, Tampa International Airport, the Port of Tampa, etc. This is what the spine looks like in this county. Putting on top of that then here, we show what the spine network could look like. And the spine network, as we get into each area, we're trying to define what the spine network looks like. So this is kind of an example of what it could look like. And then out on top of that, the key economic spaces, again, that are defined on the map that's attached here. Moving on, this is where we're making the connection to economic development. So the lines that are highlighted here really are the key point of this slide, and it's land that is more accessible, has greater capacity to support profitable business activity. And then reduced transportation costs are thus capitalized into higher land values. So by investing in transportation infrastructure, it will increase property values and therefore produce more profitable economic activity. So that's kind of the basis of how we approach this. Again, as Herb talked about, and is shown on the map in front of the podium, these are some of the groupings that we're going to be proceeding through as we work through this process with the committee. So, the first space that we analyze is what's circled in red here. It's kind of in the central or the middle part of the county, almost kind of the centroid of the county. To better define that, it's this area shown in red on the map. It includes some areas like Orient Park, East Lake, a little bit of Seffner, a little bit of Brandon. There's some city of Tampa in here, and it even touches a little bit in Temple Terrace. So to show you kind of what the spine is in this area, which is the SIS, Strategic Intermodal System. Some of the spine facilities here, for example, I-4, I-75, the Crosstown, Solomon Expressway, and you'll see that there's some primarily freight rail facilities, freight today facilities in this area. Some of the network, as we started analyzing it, or some roadways like Orient Road, US 301, Hillsborough Avenue, MLK, part of Adamo Drive. There's some additional rail facilities that are shown in red in this graphic that are in this area as well. And then lastly, in this specific area, this graphic shows where the heart routes are, the current heart routes, again, in this area or this space that we analyzed initially. So when you start to look at the land uses in this area, it's maybe kind of hard to see, but this area of the county is mostly non-residential. There's a lot of light industrial, a lot of public spaces, and that's kind of what dominates this key activity center, or those are some of the key activity centers here. So just to kind of help orient you a little bit, we show here some of the key things that are in this area. For example, the fairgrounds. You've got the CSX Intermodal Yard in the lower part of this area. You've got the Hillsborough County facilities on Falkenberg Road. You've got J.P. Morgan Chase, Tampa Bay Steel, Net Park. Just kind of some examples of what's in this area. Tampa Executive Airport as well. So if you just kind of took a very broad brush of the land use in this area, the northern part and the southern part are mostly industrial. And then kind of in the middle is more office and those kind of uses. Again, with some limited amount of residential spread throughout the area. So now that we understand the existing infrastructure and the land uses, we started to look at, well, what do we need here? You know, what's what's necessary. So because of the uses in this area, again, the light industrial, the office, those kind of things, it led us to, they need access to the spine system to move goods and mostly goods, but people as well. So if you have a plant where you're manufacturing some kind of widgets and you need to distribute them, your goal is to get to the spine as quickly as you can, i.e. in this case maybe Interstate 4, maybe Interstate 75, so you can distribute them. So we mostly focus on roads, as you'll see, for this particular area.